Hi, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. The USC Family Caregiver Support Center is pleased to provide this educational video for families and relatives who are taking care of one or more loved ones. Today's virtual event is part of our ongoing caregiver discussion series that explores how our life experiences shape us as caregivers. Today's discussion will be around the family caregiving experience through the eyes of sandwich family caregivers. I'm Jenny Peterson, and I will be your host for today's program. Before we begin, I want to introduce you to the center. The USC Family Caregiver Support Center serves and supports family caregivers as they navigate through their caregiving journey. Our center provides services such as information and referral, support groups, evidence based trainings, community education, and much, much more to family caregivers seeking help. If you're a family caregiver who is struggling or needs support, our center can help you. Our center is also home to the Los Angeles Caregiver Resource Center, which is part of the California statewide system of 11 caregiver resource centers. Now, if you happened upon this video by chance and you don't know about our center yet, please visit our website at losangelescrc.usc.edu for more information. Better yet, you can sign up for our program right on our website using the CareNav link on our homepage. We know that family caregivers need support, and our center is here for you. Now, let's get the show going. We've invited 3 family caregivers here today to give us some insight into the sandwich family caregiver experience. This discussion will allow caregivers in this demographic to relate to and learn about how others have used their life experiences and family roles to shape their caregiving decisions. Being a sandwich caregiver creates unique circumstances that are specific to the community. Now, a lot of you may be asking, what is a sandwich caregiver? Some of you may not have heard this term before. Basically, sandwich caregivers are caregivers who are caregiving at both ends of the spectrum. They're caring for children on one end and an older adult at the other end. And this is why they're in a sandwich, right? The caregivers are in the middle of this sandwich. Okay. Now, our moderator for today's panel is Christy Byrne Yates. She is the author of Building a Legacy of Love, which is a book that talks about sandwich caregivers and how to navigate the unique experience of caring for both children and an older adult. So, welcome to you, Christy, and thank you for joining us today.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I'm Christy Byrne Yates, and I'm the author of Building a Legacy of Love, Thriving in the Sandwich Generation, and I'll be moderating our caregiver discussion today. We've invited some very special caregivers today to discuss their unique caregiving experiences as sandwich family caregivers. These caregivers are people who are caregiving at both ends of the spectrum, caring for children and aging or ailing loved ones or parents. You'll be able to listen to their stories and how they've been able to navigate this part of the caregiving journey. We hope that these caregiver discussions spark hope in our audience and that there are others out there who are dealing with similar caregiving issues. You are not alone. Thank you to our guests for being here today. We have Crystal Hines. Crystal? And then we have, thank you. And then we have Sharon Lee. Hi, Sharon. And then we have Susan Jacarl. I hope I said that right, Susan. Susan Jacarl. So it's so nice to see everybody. Okay, great. So let's start off asking everyone to introduce themselves and who they care for. So Crystal, do you want to start with us and tell us a little bit about yourself and who you're caregiving for?
Yes. So my name is Crystal Hines, and I am a mother as well as a caregiver for my own mother.
Great. Thank you very much.
Hi,
I'm sorry, go ahead, Sharon.
No, I'm Sharon Lee. I am also a mom. I have two daughters. I also care for my mom, and she is 91 years old.
Wow, thank you so much. That sounds like a lot. And then Susan.
My name is Susan DeCarl. I'm also a mom. I have two boys. I'm sure they're much smellier than Sharon's daughters. And I'm helping care for my dad who has severe dementia.
Great, thank you. And a little bit about me. I am someone who's come out the other side. My parents both died in 2015. Both of them they did not live with me. They lived in assisted living at some point. That was their wish. Both did have some level of dementia. My mother had Alzheimer's. My father had vascular dementia. And at the time I was providing a lot of care and support for them, I was working full time and raising two kids with my husband. Our kids were started in their teens or tweens and were ended up in high school at the time my parents both died. So that's why I took on the journey of writing the book and starting to do some work with caregivers. So you can see we've all been there. We're like a lot of you who might be taking a look at this. So I'd really like to ask each of you to respond to this, and we can just kind of go in order again, or if you have something right away you want to say, maybe just jump in there. But did you ever encounter any obstacles or actually, let me back up. What I'd really like to know is, when did you kind of become aware that you were a caregiver? Like, when did that idea of I'm a caregiver sort of bubble up for you? Anyone want to jump in? Crystal, how about you?
Yeah. Sure, no problem. So it kind of came just like in a moment and in an instant. Like everything was fine. And for my mother, her diagnosis was cancer, uterine cancer. And so everything was fine. And then, and she was very independent and living on her own and everything. And then all of a sudden, she just, started not feeling well and became very tired and things like that. And she, right, on her own, because independently, she went to the doctor and had checkups and everything done. And then it came back that she had cancer, and still independently was caring for herself and everything. But then the effects of treatment and things like that just kind of became too much for her. So when it became, I think, even just in running errands, it was like, okay, she needs someone to go to the doctor, to go to the grocery store for her, or to go pick up these things, or if she was going to doctor's appointments. And I was just trying to have a simple conversation with her on what happened at the doctor's appointments. She would either be too overwhelmed by the information that she was receiving, so she didn't, cognitively take it in. So I would have to kind of get it back into communication with the doctors to really figure out what's going on, or even sometimes be just, you know, um, afraid to share what was really truly going on. And so that's when I was like, okay, I got to jump in here. Something has to be done. I can't,
Yeah.
And so
So you started
even
to
just
become
to get
aware that
the
you were.
information.
Yeah. Thank you. That sounds like a lot, and we'll probably talk more about some of those aspects. How about you, Sharon? When did you become
Yeah,
aware that you were like a caregiver?
gosh, I don't know when I wasn't aware that I was a caregiver. I also had to care for an ill father for many, many years. He had cancer. He passed away at 96 in 2016. And my mother was also caring for him, but I was caring for both of them. So for
Yeah.
many years, I cared for both of them. My the day after my father passed away, how the body just does this to you, just stopping. And so she just shut. And what happened was, then I realized, like, oh gosh, now he's gone. Now I have to really take care of her. And so that
Got
was
it.
2016, about, like 6 years ago, right? And then, so then we knew the plan is, okay, I just shifted gears from one parent to another. And then
Yeah.
obviously COVID happened and the hill
Oh,
got
yeah.
steeper. And then we all had to just, take care of everything in what the sandwich generation does. But my
Mhm.
situation is unique too because I'm the only one. I'm the only child to
Got it.
have these parents, So
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, that's an interesting aspect, and we may jump in on that. And I know, Susan, I want to hear about you when you kind of became aware that you were a caregiver.
I'm at the opposite spectrum of Sharon because literally it wasn't until I was looking at the USC site that it was like, oh, I was thinking the caregiver had to be like 100% living with the person, doing everything. And then I read this one sentence. It's like, even if you spend 5 minutes doing an email and I was like,
Right,
wow, I was looking at it the wrong way. And I th
right.
I think it's kind of a bizarre place to be, and Sandwich is so perfect because, you're completely used to being a mom and taking care of your kids, and then all of a sudden you realize, "Oh, my parents need care," but then you're in this weird place where you don't wanna overstep your bounds, and you don't know if like, now the tables are turned, but also there's all this immense guilt because it's like, wow, now you know what parenting is like, and it's just a little bit bizarre, so I think every
Yeah,
every family must have a completely unique story, so I think that's
right.
what makes it so tough to figure out, okay, what do we do?
Well,
So
and
yeah.
that's what's nice is that, hearing from each of you and even my situation, it's like understanding that caregiving can be, and I love what you said, Susan, that you didn't even, weren't even aware of it until you read something that said,
Yeah.
and it kind of was like this light bulb moment, right? So yeah, absolutely. But some of us kind of jump in because we know that we're there. And I've heard stories of folks who are only children doing all of the work. I know, Susan, you talked to me about your parent is living further away from you. It's not right in your vicinity, correct? Yeah.
Mhm.
But then, Crystal, your mother lived with you, correct? Did you live with
Yeah,
your
but
mother?
yeah, so we ended up transferring her to be able to provide the care that she
Right.
needed and just to kind of streamline the sandwich caregiving that I was
Yes.
doing. And
Yeah.
so to
Yeah.
be able to kind of do it all in one place, and so we kind of put it all
Right.
together. But um, yeah, it was like not until the last moment of taking over certain things that I was like, oh, I've been doing this the whole time, staying abreast on paperwork and appointments and all these things,
Mhm.
Right.
and
Yeah.
providing this level
Yeah.
of care. But it is an aha kind of eureka moment, like, oh, I am doing that. Yeah.
Right. Right. Um, how about how has caregiving for someone other than your children? How has it been viewed in your family? Maybe with your kids or any significant others, or if you have siblings, how is caregiving viewed in your family? Anyone has some thoughts on that?
I don't, when you talk about caregiving and throwing family in the mix, it becomes a thing. Because you hope that your intentions for the person that you're caring for are mirrored or mimicked, throughout the family for the same quality of care and level of care that you want to provide for this person. But sometimes it's just not
Mm-hmm.
always like that. If it's like a
Right.
husband or a wife, they're more, they're like, oh, these are my in laws. And so you have to kind of think
Okay.
about those, the separation in there, and then coming together with that. And then even just being not a child, but an adult child of I would sorry about that. Even becoming just like an adult child caregiver and having your own children, you think about the relationships that you have with your children and being on the
Mhm.
other side of that and needing care. And so, what does that look like? And it's something to consider.
Yeah. How about just if, like other people that are in your family, are there any conflicts, like someone seeing you as a caregiver, or have you had to let people know you see yourself as the primary caregiver? Has that ever been an issue for anyone?
I'd be kind of surprised. I think from the people that I've talked to, it seems like everyone steps back and waits for one sibling, if there's multiple siblings, to step forward and take control. Because it's really
Okay.
scary territory. And
Yes.
I feel lucky because I've had help from my older and younger brother, but I definitely feel like, you know, yeah, they I definitely feel like, hey, you can run with it if you want to, So, and I don't know how much. I mean, I don't want to say that they haven't helped because from other stories I've heard, it's like some of my friends are completely alone and get no help. So I don't want to say
Right.
that I'm in a bad situation like that, but I sometimes I get this feeling like because I'm female that my brothers are
Okay.
like, well, you know, you you got this, like, and I don't
Yeah.
know.
And that kind of leads into some other areas, like what are the expectations? And so maybe in your family, and that's not unusual, right? Anybody else? Crystal, you're nodding your head. Is that something for you or Sharon that
Yeah.
I'm the,
I
yeah.
I wanna ditto, what Susan just said actually, because it is like that with, siblings especially. They kinda just are hands off until someone does, step up and declare that they're going to
Hmm.
go ahead and move forward with it. But then you're still responsible for the outcomes and decisions that you do make
Mhm.
as the caregiver. And then to second the feelings of I have a sister and I have a brother. So my sister is younger and my brother is older, but they don't have children. So I feel like they looked at
Okay.
me though as if like, "Oh, you're the nurturer. You provide care. Like you
Uh-huh.
got this. You know what you're doing. You're already caring for the kids." And you're the only one with grandkids that she would want to see. So like go ahead.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
I know.
I feel that one, Susan. Yeah.
For
Yeah.
me,
I also think
I was the only one there. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I was just going to say, for me, it was local. I lived there. I live in California. My parents were 5 minutes
Right.
away.
Yeah.
My brother's in Michigan. My sister's in Montana. It was like, really? Are we going to draw straws or is this pretty obvious? So there you go. Sharon, I'm sorry. Go ahead. What was your experience?
no, that's okay because I also feel like it's different for each of my parents because my dad lived to be so old, like old, 96, but he did not have dementia or he was not impacted cognitively, but physically towards the last few years, he needed more
Yeah.
support. But it was the caregiving level was a different kind of capacity where my mother has dementia and it
Right.
just got worse in time. And so the ask of that, with her bodily functions and everything like that, was a
Mhm.
higher level, and
Yes.
so that each unique situation of stepping in of what that means and how do you define it, it just depends because I wasn't. I was just my father's daughter, spending time with him like a normal daughter relationship.
Mhm.
But with my mother, I really became a real care to me in my brain that was the caregiving
Yeah.
because she couldn't, remember anything.
Yeah. I want to switch gears a little bit and kind of bring in the other side of the sandwich, right? So, one of the things about being a sandwich caregiver is that you also have children in your life and that you are raising them. Usually we look at sandwich families as there are children under the age of 18 living with you. Now maybe that's not your situation, but you in some ways have some kids. So maybe can you talk about what are the unique challenges you have found being a sandwich caregiver and having kids that you're parenting? You want to jump
The
Um,
in on
weird
that one?
thing for me, there was a strange thing. It's just so you know, I'm a parenting coach. So
Oh,
for
okay.
for a living, I help
Yeah.
people raise children. I'm also a
Wow.
teacher, and
Yeah.
I have 2 children of my own, and, this is different because I'm sort of raising my parents. Both are mo now my
Yeah.
mom, but she's not getting better, and so there's, like, a little dissonance between, like, my parenting role of being a mom and doing a day job. of helping other parents,
Yes.
and then my own mom. But for my two kids, I feel like it's been a gift. They might not say so in the moment all the time, but they have. When we were in lockdown, my kids, we all took turns walking my mom around the block like you would
Oh,
do with your pet. We would
Mhm.
Yeah.
all take turns feeding her and prepping meals, in between all of our Zooms, myself included, and downloading homework and doing things like that. So our responsibilities as a family, because we did have to move in with her and take care of her because nobody would come help, um, was shifted. And so for us, our roles, I feel like they'll never forget it, and they'll know, I hope, that family is support and empathy and kindness, and that their takeaway from
Yeah.
being one part of the sandwich is to know
Mm-hmm.
that you can't have a sandwich without the three parts. So I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
I hope that's part of their takeaway.
Yeah. I see Crystal and Susan smiling and nodding. How about what would you guys say is something that's unique for you, and or what? How do you see yourself in what Sharon is describing?
Crystal has to go first. I'm still formulating thoughts.
All right, Crystal,
um,
it's up to you.
I think I look at it the same way as Sharon looks at it because it is a terminal, you know,
Mm-hmm.
diagnosis that we have to work with. Everyone recognizes, and I feel like for myself, I recognize it
Mm-hmm.
as a blessing to be able to do and to be able to have her with us while we, care for the children and care for her at the same time. I often sometimes um and I go between kind of just cultural responsibility and then
Mm-hmm.
between wanting to give my children their own freedom, but I might ask them, hey, can you help give Yaya something to drink, or can you help so and so, or let 'em
Yeah.
stand outside and catch some fresh air with, although I'm telling my mom, like, can you stand outside with the kids, it's for her to catch the fresh air. The kids
Exactly.
don't need
There you
anyone
go.
outside. But,
Yeah.
so it's a push and a pull. It's
Mm,
motivating for her to be able to be around the life and see what there is, to stay strong for and keep fighting for and everything.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm like, shh, be quiet, guys. Let's create some rest time and stuff. So it's
mm.
very torn, but I think that everyone recognizes their role and are able to right now appreciate the time and the duty of it, um, without
Okay.
feeling, um, yeah, too much.
Okay. That's lovely. All right, Susan.
I think my case is a little bit different because since my parents are up near San Francisco, so the last few months I took a week out of each month and spent time, and I was trying to help them. There's also trying to get them on Medi-Cal and paperwork. And because of my dad's dementia, we've been finding out he's been junking important papers, just throwing them away, ripping them up. Um,
Yeah.
he's like lost almost so much, but he remembers like food and garbage. It's a really bizarre combination, but it's become scary because even their citizenship papers he trashed. So it's
Oh boy.
like doing all this catch up, and so there's all these things that seem a little bit too mature to talk to my kids about, and they're not actually seeing my dad in the flesh because they're down here doing school. My older son just recently went off to the army, so I don't have to worry about him. But I I tell my kids what's going on. I think um, uh, like the other two said, empathy is huge. Like at least they can
Yeah.
see that there's you're again, I don't want to sound super sexist, but I feel like in my experience, women are natural multitaskers, and it's easier for them to see multiple points of view. And I
Mm-hmm.
don't think it's like at least the guys that I've known in my life, my sons, it's hard for them to change their perspective. So
Okay.
I'm hoping this is building more empathy, but I can tell like people are freaked out, they're scared, they don't want to talk about it. So
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
really
Yeah. Um, and like all of you, I think, the struggle for me was also coming into a realization of what was this impact on my kids. And, similar to you, Sharon, my professional job, I just retired after 20 years in education, and I was a school psychologist, and I worked with a lot of families who were struggling. So helping parents was something I did a lot of. But probably the thing I noticed was that my kids really did learn empathy in action, right? They were naturally empathetic. They loved their grandparents. They were close to them, but they put that empathy into action. And that's what I saw as compassion, right? They were naturally empathetic and wanted to help, and they wanted to help me. But we talked about a lot of things, and I didn't do it all right. I got to tell you, because like I suddenly was like, but there were times where I was, not at my best because I was so stressed out, and but we talked about it, and it is a natural part of life, but we don't, and Sharon or Crystal, I think it was you who said, it's a terminal illness, but like life is terminal, right? We're all going to end up in the same place. We'll all end up leaving one way or the other, dying. And so being able to have those conversations, age appropriate, right? I mean, my kids were old enough that we could have that question. So I wanted to ask more about on the sandwich generation thing. What were some of your biggest stressors, or what are some of your biggest stressors being a sandwich caregiver? What sort of stands out for you? Anyone?
I'm going to say paperwork, dealing with the
Okay.
government is like huge. It's
Okay.
like scary to me. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
knowing that my dad needs memory care very soon,
Yeah.
and just the financial stress of it, and having to figure out my parents' finances, and that was kind of a big thing in our family, that it was like, don't mess with my parents. You have to always like honor the older generation. So I'm really scared of doing the wrong thing, and like possibly upsetting them. And it,
Yeah.
it's but I mean, something as simple as paperwork. I read and speak English, and I'm looking at these pages, but I'm still completely freaked out, like, oh my gosh, bank accounts and this, and so I,
Hmm.
I don't know. It's sad that I'm so frightened of just the paperwork.
But it's a
No,
lot. There's a lot.
yeah,
Sharon, you're nodding.
it's totally a lot. It like paralyzes me when I have
Mm.
to like submit something and then a day passes and it was a month and then there was a deadline. Like, oh my God, everything is at stake because I didn't read it right or I missed a deadline. And then the biggest stressor I think for me is just juggling the finances to like
Okay.
because I don't know the crystal ball of how long this is and what is sustainable for us to manage her care because now we
Well,
do have care for her.
yeah.
That's really holds me. I lose sleep over it. It keeps me hostage.
Sure.
Like, how are we going to do this? Because there was so much for
Right.
this care.
Okay. So I'm hearing the paperwork for sure, and then definitely the financial piece. And how about you, Crystal? Are there things in there or something else that's also a big stressor for you?
Um, Definitely the paperwork. So always kind of going through the details, making sure that you're not missing any, hidden factors or any like really fine print that may really impact. And my whole thing was signing up for new programs because I didn't want to sign up for anything that would offset something that she had already had in place that she maybe had forgotten to tell me about or something like that.
Okay.
So my whole thing with that is stressful is, and it was in the transition, was basically making sure that everything that that was supposed to be transferred to myself as far as like medical documents or certain accounts, knowing about certain accounts like the retirement accounts or the social security account and other accounts and all that information, just
Mhm.
making sure that when it was being transferred from her to me, that there wasn't like an account that she had forgotten about and things like that, in which
Yeah.
there was. And 3 years
Okay.
later, we got to it. She was like, "Oh yeah, I forgot I have like 13,000 in one of these old,
Yeah.
like retirement accounts from an old job." And so, and I had to get in contact with like corporate and try to get them, to understand and relieve information and
Mhm.
stuff. And it ended up working out well, but how many other
Mhm.
accounts are out there that I don't know about?
Right.
So,
Right. And I
yeah.
think that's a real challenging piece when you're working with somebody who has dementia because they don't you can't like oh my gosh, I had so many questions and you can't answer them for me anymore, and that's really hard. Yeah, so it's a lot to work
Mhm.
on. I wanted We have a little bit more time. I wanted to ask a little bit more, kind of pull back and talk about kids a little bit. How many of you have children who are actually, you've talked a little bit about it. I heard taking mom out for a walk or getting her outside. And I know, Susan, your kids are not able to do hands on stuff. Are there any other things that they have been able to do, or when you're with them that they help you with? Like, how do you involve your kids in any of the caregiving?
For me personally, it's probably me trying to explain what's going on because I
Okay.
definitely have these when I come back after a week of helping my parents, I'm just like mentally
You're done.
exhausted,
Yeah.
and I'll like
Yeah.
sleep for a full day or something like that, and they can tell, like,
Yeah.
okay, let's not mess with mom or anything. And not that they mess with
Yeah.
me anyway, but and I try to explain to them because I want them to be a part of it, but also they're kind of teenagey and they're like, okay, are we done this family conversation? Because I got things to kill online and stuff like that. So yeah, I think it's going okay, but um
Yeah.
yeah, I do feel guilty that we don't live closer, so there is more interaction, but you do what you can and you try and
Yeah.
not feel too guilty for everything. I think that's the worst part being in the sandwich is like you're getting guilt from everywhere. So I
Yes.
it's little things that I'm nice smelling soap, nothing crazy, but like little tiny things I really appreciate a lot more than I used to. So
Well, that's a interesting point, and I want to follow that up because that's kind of where we'll wrap up. But I wanted to give Sharon and Crystal opportunity. Are there other ways that you are finding that your kids can help you, or that they're stepping up and doing some of this work?
Well, for me, because my mom has dementia, she's regressed, so her attention span is more aligned with my youngest daughter, who just turned 12. And then I also have a 15-year-old. So they connect with her way better and more than I do, because I
Uh,
want her to be mom and she's not my mom. So they paint her
yeah,
nails, they watch
yeah,
movies that are her memory bank can
oh,
handle. So they
yeah,
listen to music and they dance and they have a really an amazing relationship that I'm actually kind of jealous of because I want to connect with her, but I'm just so stressed in my adult brain that I can't bring it down when I'm with her. It's just she's just telling me
right,
of all the things I didn't do. And so with the kids, they really connect well. They do her hair. They actually now we have her in a home, a six pack with other people, so they do everybody's nails on manicure day. So I feel like they really
right,
do connect to their grandma the way
yeah,
that I hope they do. So they don't see her the way I do. But that
yeah,
that has
yes,
been a blessing. I'm really grateful
yes,
for.
yeah, yeah. How about
Yeah.
you, Crystal?
My experience has been my experience has been kind of similar to sorry. My experience has been similar to Sharon's in that respect as far
Yeah,
as and I didn't even notice it until you said it like that, as far as like the cognitive levels maybe being more, similar. And so um they enjoy the exact same things with their grandmother, and that's, painting nails and doing hair and watching little movies or baking like
Yeah.
little treats, eating things that they
Oh,
definitely shouldn't. Like, and yeah, definitely eating things that they should not. And so doing those
Yeah.
things, they like to like garden together that are more her speed. I think some of the time, like the guilt does come out though as well.
Yeah.
And it's really like trying to find activities that fit both parties. So
Mhm.
sometimes if I'm doing something kind of in the slow lane and for the sake of my mother to kind of recoup and just really be in her own place, then I'm concerned about the kids and like, depriving them of childhood and trying to, create a
Mhm.
balance for the two. And so I found places
Yeah.
to do that. Of course, there's like the beach and the park and areas
Mhm.
where you
Mhm.
can be really as well as exciting. Um, but yeah, that has been my experience, just trying to find a blend between the two in
Mhm.
moments
Yeah.
with the
Yeah.
two because they can find all their moments together. And
Mhm.
they're
Yeah.
very helpful with one another. They'll run each other baths and everything back and forth and stuff and take really good care of each
Yeah.
other. But me trying to find my fit between both parties and stuff. So yeah.
Yeah. So it's about time for us to wrap up. So I wanted to give everybody an opportunity to just kind of share with other caregivers there who might identify with any one of us. What what piece of advice would you give a sandwich caregiver?
mm.
Hmm. Piece of
I'm
advice
gonna
for a
I'm gonna
sandwich.
start, and I'm gonna go ahead, Crystal. You go ahead. I was gonna jump in, but go
Yeah.
ahead.
My piece of advice for a sandwich caregiver. If you're putting your best foot forward, then you're doing the best job. And that's plain and simple. If you're tired, that's okay. You're doing great. If you got more energy to go, then go ahead and go for the
Yeah.
gusto. But if you do something wrong, it's okay. You're in good company.
Yeah.
Um, and as long as you're putting your best foot forward and reaching out for support when you feel like you need it, but most importantly, accepting it when it's offered. That's always the best foot forward. Ask for help and then accept it when it's offered too. It's hard to do because it's our parents and our
Yeah.
children are the
Mhm.
things
Yeah.
closest to our heart, but really, take it.
That's That's so wise. I love the asking and receiving, which can be so hard. So, how beautiful. How about you, Sharon? Piece of advice you would give?
It's the same as Crystal's. Asking for help took a while, but to receive it is even, and give yourself the grace and permission to be okay with not being okay.
Hmm.
That's
Yeah.
normal, and also to be. I say this all the time, to be just go to their world instead of expecting them to come to ours. It's just not very realistic. I think the sooner that you accept that, and just every day that's so hard, just know that it's not forever. You know, one day you might
Yeah,
look back and wish that you just had that minute, but in the moment, it's just there's so many feelings that we go through.
right. I I love both of those, and I love the little piece about, and I love the just being gentle with yourself, but the joining them in their world. That was lovely. Susan, how about you? A piece of advice that you would give to, or words of wisdom you
Man,
would
there's
give to
so many.
sandwich
I
caregivers?
think that's really great. Like being in their world, and there'll be times when you're like frustrated and upset and you don't realize why things are the way they are, and that's totally fine. I think to have a good outlet, um and I've really appreciated the support groups that I found through USC, so thank you for that. Also, I like to do a lot of research to find out what other people are going through, and every case is so unique. It's you can't just get information from one place and expect to know everything 100%.
Right.
And yeah, I mean, sometimes it's just like reading stuff before I pass out in bed, but but it's a way, it actually calms me in a weird way.
Yeah.
So, I mean, whatever works for you. And yeah, no one is perfect. And like I burst out into tears still.
Yeah.
I get like super angry. So I mean, it's just like now I'm like talking to myself like I'm 5, and I'm like, you can't help your feelings. You're okay. Let it out, but don't fight it. So yeah, those are kind of my conversations with myself now.
Susan, you
Exactly.
are
Exactly.
so right about that. I talk to myself
Yeah.
too, and it's like, you are nice, you are kind, and you are good. You are love.
That's right.
I'm gonna
You
buy
know what?
you all
Here's
a beverage.
I love talking with you three. It's just been wonderful. I have to say the other thing for me, what I would share is, and who said guilt? I think Crystal, you said the feeling guilty sometimes, or maybe Susan, you said that too. But
We all, yeah.
here was what I kind of. This is what I kind of, yeah, everybody, we all feel it, right? But here's the deal. I really started to realize when I took time for myself and took care of myself, I was actually teaching my kids something really valuable that they
Yeah.
could learn in their life. That it's okay to set boundaries. It's okay and healthy to take care of yourself, because if you are worn out and can't do it, everybody suffers. So we talked about that, about it's not selfish to have self-care, it's really a loving act.
I think that's
So
probably the number one stumbling block for everybody going
yeah,
into this, is realizing that whole
definitely.
guilt barricade. So
Definitely. I want to thank you all so much for joining me. This is about all we have time for today. I have a feeling the three of us or four of us could just talk for a lot longer and never cover everything, right? So maybe we'll do it again. But I want to thank my guests, or our guests, Crystal Hines, Sharon Lee, Susan Jakar. Thank you, our guests, and for being so honest and sharing your stories. Being able to hear from family caregivers who have shared backgrounds and experiences helps others to understand that they are not alone in how they feel and what they're going through. It gives inspiration and guidance to those of us who are struggling to know that others have gone through the same things and have overcome these obstacles. We hope that this panel has been able to illustrate the Sandwich family caregiver experience that so many of us can relate to. And thank you so much for joining us today for this discussion. It's been my pleasure, and I just hope that we can continue these conversations. All right, ladies, thank you so much.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Christy.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you, Christy, for that informative panel. I also want to take a moment to thank our caregiver panelists for their willingness today to share their thoughts in such an honest manner. Your courage to share about both your struggles and triumphs helps those of us who are watching to feel not so alone in our caregiving journeys. I want to tell you that you are an inspiration to us. Now, we hope this discussion today helped to build your understanding about some of the unique challenges that sandwich family caregivers face. And even though we are focusing on a specific type of life experience today, I think we can all agree that some of these stories, some of these things that we've heard are all universal. We can all relate to some of these things that we discussed today. Being a family caregiver can often be very confusing and overwhelming. Sometimes you just don't know where to start or what you need. And that's where our center comes in. That's where we can help. The USC Family Caregivers Support Center is here for family caregivers. Our goals are to educate you, connect you to resources, and support you throughout your caregiving journey. Please be sure to visit us at losangelescrc.usc.edu or visit our social media pages on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to learn more and connect with our center. This discussion series will be available on our YouTube channel if you or someone you know wants to watch them on their own. Now, if you came upon this video by chance, perhaps YouTube suggested it to you as a video you might want to watch, and you want to learn more about our center, please visit our website for more information. Now, if you've watched all the videos in this series and you still haven't signed up for our program, what are you waiting for? All you need to do is go to our website and click on the CareNav link on our homepage. It's never too late to ask for help. Remember that oftentimes it's what you don't know that hurts you. So don't be shy about getting connected to one of our experts. If you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, please like it below. And also make sure to click on that red subscribe button to subscribe to our YouTube channel and be notified every time we post a new educational video for the caregiving community. Take good care of yourself, and until next time, just remember, caregivers fight on.